welcome to Ready to Heal. I'm your host, Betsy Sawyer Galen, and I'm here to introduce you to various different modes of healing. Some of them you've never heard of, and today's guest, I'm quite sure you've probably never heard of this. This is Adam Johnson. He runs consciousness bars.
Or access consciousness bars.
Access consciousness bars. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in the bars.
Sure. So I've been fascinated with healing modalities for a long time, over a decade. I started off with Reiki, and then I've played around with some other things, acupressure and shiatsu massage, and then I came upon the access bars in a very interesting way. It was actually recommended to me by my vocal coach at the time. I was studying vocal performance in Boulder, Colorado, and my vocal coach actually recommended the access bars as a way to become a more dynamic performer.
And was she using them for that reason?
She was. And she was also using some of the other access consciousness tools in order to facilitate better vocal performance.
So tell me a little bit about the bars. What do people typically go and get this treatment for?
I'd say one of the most common reasons is for stress relief. It's really amazing in how it really drains all the stress from your body. And sleep difficulties, it's a very dynamic way of changing sleep issues. Typically, a lot of times people who have trouble sleeping will actually fall asleep during the middle of their bar session, which can be kind of funny to hear someone complain about sleeping and then 10 minutes into the session and they're sawing logs. And migraine headaches, the bars is quite exceptional in how it can shift migraine headaches. PTSD, it's really great for releasing the
stress,
the locked trauma in the body. And I've seen some pretty dramatic changes with people who have abuse in their backgrounds. And also for people just desiring to become more present in their lives.
Uh-huh.
Anyone who's
and what do you mean by present? Just explain that.
Sure. So I don't know if you've ever had the experience of driving somewhere that you a typical path of like, oh, you're used to driving maybe to your parents' house or something, and you're driving along and all of a sudden you're there and you don't even recall like how you got there.
Right.
Which is a good example of being an auto drive and or autopilot.
Yeah.
So there it's where we check out. It's like we're not even present in our own lives. We're not really aware of what we're choosing, what we're doing, and the bars helps shift people out of this autopilot way of functioning, and it's also autopilot in the sense of like how you may react in a given situation, in the same way of like maybe so-and-so says this to you and you react and you get upset about it, or someone cuts you off on the highway and you ruins your day, and typical like behaviors of particular ways you respond to things.
Uh-huh.
And the access bars helps shift out of that way of functioning to basically just being present with no judgment. And it allows people to change things that they haven't been able to change before. So it's very popular for life coaches to integrate the access bars into their practice, since it allows people to change behaviors that have up till then that people haven't been able to change them.
Do you have any are there any people who you've treated that stand out for you as you've had an experience that's where they've really changed something very important? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, there was a little girl, and when I was living in Colorado, she was learning a lot of trouble in classes, and she was getting like C's and D's, and I had the chance to run her bars. It was actually only for about 30 or 40 minutes, and the change within like a few weeks from then, her grades had shifted very dynamically. She was actually getting A's where she was getting C's and D's before, so I'm not sure exactly what shifted, though. The bars can really unencumber things that lock up the brain in a way that is very unique. So the bars is very dynamic with people with learning difficulties. Sometimes there's just something that's locking up the brain and not allowing it to function, not allowing people to learn in a functional way. And the bars can help allow the release of whatever it is that's locking up the functioning of the brain. So that was the most dramatic, where someone literally went from borderline failing grades to getting A's in their classes within a period of it's a little over a month, that the teachers were all wondering what on earth was going on.
Changed, yeah. Oh,
So,
that's interesting. I have so many more questions I would ask you, and we're not going to have time to do that. But is there anything that you want to share particularly that we haven't had a chance to touch on? We're also going to show you a demonstration. You'll see how it works. But is there something else?
Yeah. So the bars is unique in that you can learn how to do it in a single day class, and of course, the longer you do it, the more proficient you become. Though even in one day, you can learn how to run the bars and work on your friends, your family, and so.
And how do you do that?
So I teach classes. I teach the access bars, and also there's literally I believe possibly even thousands of people now who are certified bars facilitators. So if you go to accessconsciousness.com and look up bars facilitators, then you can find one in your area and see where you can find a bars class.
Huh.
So they're all over the place, all over the world. If you look on the website, you can probably find a bars class somewhere near you.
Hi, so this is my guest, Adam Johnson, and he's going to run the bars on me now, do a demonstration so you can see how it actually works in real life.
So we're going to begin with the energy pulls. The first one is going to be pulling energy up through the body. And we're pulling energy all the way from the feet, all the way up the body, up through the crown of the head, and just continuously pulling energy.
And how are you doing that?
Really,
just by placing the fingers and then an intention?
Yeah, I would say intention, literally asking for the energy to move, and these 2 points of holding the head is a good point of connection for pulling the energy up through the body.
Are there other points?
There are, and actually I'm going to do that next. So this is a good place to pull energy up through the body, and I'm actually pulling energy all the way up through your body, and also I'm pulling it up through my body at the same time, which helps like create a flow of energy through both of our bodies.
And I can feel it. I can feel it in my legs and in my head.
So I just keep doing this until there's a point where I can perceive, oh, that's it. And it's just a sense that I've gotten where, okay, the energy's flowing good here. We can move on to the next area. So I'll do that now. And the next area is the feet.
And is this typical? You typically do the head and the feet?
Yes.
And are you still trying to pull the energy up by doing the feet, or are you?
No, actually, what I'm doing now is I'm actually pulling energy down through the body.
Oh.
So I'm gonna do it both ways. So now I have my finger right kind of in the under the ball of the foot, and I'm pulling energy down through the body. This is a good point of connection for this part in the process.
Wow, and I can feel that too. I can feel all the energy that was up in the top of my head and in my shoulders moving down.
Yeah, a lot of times people perceive different sensations in their body as the energy gets moving. And that's about good. And the final energy pull is if you can put your palms of your hands up to your shoulders.
Oh, okay, like that?
Oh, and actually flip the palms up and put your middle finger right in the middle of my palm.
Okay.
So this final energy flow, I'm actually pulling energy down through well, I'm pulling energy up through my crown and up through my arms, and it's like it's almost like creating a suction, that creating an energy flow for Betsy going down through her crown, down her arms and out her hands, and then up my arms and up and out of my crown. So this is the final of the energy flows. And what these do is they get the energy moving in a way that allows the rest of the bar session to be much more dynamic than if you were to just skip this part and get right into running the bars.
So you do this first every time?
Every time. And by doing a thorough job at this part, you set the stage for a dynamic bar session where you can get a lot more change.
I can really feel that.
Since this is a demonstration, we're doing it a little bit shorter than we otherwise were if we just had an hour to work together, or maybe even an hour and a half.
What's a typical bars session?
A typical bar session is around an hour, and I particularly like to do a little bit longer than that, even an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes, since I notice that I can go really deep, and in the longer sessions, oftentimes people really conk out, and I notice that I can create a particularly dynamic change with a bit of a longer session. Though with sessions that, when I'm doing sample sessions, I will typically do 20-minute sessions, and people can typically notice a change after a 20-minute session.
Yeah, I know that's what you ran on me when I met you at the Awaken Fair.
Rest your arms down. And the only thing you can't do when you're receiving bars, or the only thing that disrupts the process, is touching your hands together.
Oh, okay.
So
don't do it.
If I ever see people touching their hands together, I always make sure to ask them to put them at their sides immediately, or on their body like this.
What about crossing their feet? That's not a problem?
It's okay if you cross your ankles. The only thing that would actually really stop the energy flow is if you perfectly folded your toes all right on top of each other.
Yeah, no one does that.
So
that's not a
normally
fear.
it's okay if you cross your ankles.
That's something I do unconsciously, so I'll be conscious. Just not do it.
So, and something interesting I noticed when people touch their hands, which is very common, people naturally go like this, or go like this, is all of a sudden the energy will stop running with the bars.
Oh. So
a lot of times people like to have a blanket over them as I'm working on them, and if I notice the energy stops all of a sudden, often I'll say, "Are you touching your hands under the blanket?" And a most of the time when the energy just stops like that, it's because they've
Yeah,
touched their hands
that's
together.
funny. And it's like now that you're talking about it, I really want to fold my hands, but I won't do it.
And I'm beginning with, it's called the implant band. This is the bar that we run for the longest time while running the bars. And the bars are 32 points on the head that, when gently touched, dissipate the electromagnetic component of all the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you've ever had. It's like deleting the junk files on your computer. So if you, the bars are kind of like the hard drive on your computer storing all of this information, though it's really more like junk. It's really like if you ever have the thought, I'm stupid, I'm not good enough, that actually leaves an imprint and locks into the body. And when you have your bars run, which is what I'm doing right now, it allows the energy to dissipate. It allows all that junk to leave the body.
What about the good stuff? Does it keep the good stuff and delete the bad stuff?
So it's pretty much all bad stuff. You won't like forget English, for example, and start like
speaking
revert
another
to
language.
childlike noise making. So it's really more like the judgment judgment that's leaving, not not like information per se. It's
Right.
more like fixed points of view. Like, for example, an example of why running bars is good for academic performance is like anywhere you've ever decided you weren't good at math, for example, that locks into the body. So having your bars run can get rid of any points of view that you have that don't allow you to learn math as good as you could, or any given subject. Whenever we make a judgment, it creates a limitation in some way in our universe, and it's what holds it in place is how it's locked in the body.
Oh, interesting.
So as you have your bars run, and like right now I'm just gently touching, and I'm allowing the energy to run. I'm not doing anything per se. I'm just being totally present with Betsy's body and the sensation of my hands on her head, just being totally present and noticing how just allowing the energy to dissipate. And people perceive energy in different ways. For me, it's like a sense of heat on my fingertips and sometimes a bit of tingling, though it varies for different people, though.
And can you feel it dissipating?
I can.
Good.
And typically I notice it ramp up if as I go deeper into a session with someone, and I notice it really ramps up when they fall asleep. So it's kind of like a lot of times people block the energy from moving as dynamically as it can with when they're awake. They're more like trying to control the process.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Once a person falls asleep, I notice the energy really kicks into high gear. So that's why I typically like to create a very relaxing environment, and people conk out during bar sessions all the time, and that's when the energy dissipates in the most dynamic way. So this is the implant band, and this is like the mother lode of the bars. You can literally just keep as a practitioner, you can just keep your hands here for literally hours, and it'll just keep dissipating.
Wow.
And this is an implant is anywhere you've had basically taken a point of view that something's right or wrong, or good or bad. Anywhere you've actually, better description would be, it's anywhere you've gone into alignment or agreement or resistance or reaction to any point of view, and then it locks in the body. So
Oh.
this one is the one that we typically run the longest in a bar session. Now I'll move to another bar. And so the bars it's actually like, imagine bars of energy going through the body, or going through the head. So like there's all these different points, and there's like as I touch right here, there's a bar specifically connected with points of view and judgments around money.
Mm.
And that runs right through the head between these two fingers.
Uh-huh.
And
So does that correspond to a place in the brain that controls that?
it's interesting. The science hasn't hasn't specifically looked for these things yet exactly, though. Interestingly, there's two bars called joy and sadness located about here.
Uh-huh.
And actually, in scientific studies, they found that electromagnetic stimulation to these areas can produce joy or sadness.
Oh, interesting.
And it's interesting that how different parts of the brain do different things. And
Which side is joy and which side is sadness?
I'm actually not positive off the top of my head which
side is which?
Which one is which? We always just run them both together, and this is all your points of view connected with joy, and all your points of view connected with sadness. And it tends to more lock things up rather than allow you to just be joyful all the time. So typically, in a bar session, I'll run the implant band, which is back here, for at least 10 minutes. And then I'll do a few minutes on each one of the other bars, leading to a session that's roughly an hour to an hour and a half long. And another very important set of bars are it's called the aging toaster, and this goes right along the top of the head. Imagine, and this is imagine like a metal bar that's flexible,
Uh-huh.
or maybe a putty bar, or like a Play-Doh,
Uh-huh.
a bar made of Play-Doh. And if you were to lay two of those right on top of the head, that would be right where the aging toaster is. And it's called the aging toaster because it's all the judgments that you have connected with aging.
Oh.
And something interesting is the more people receive bars, it tends to be the younger they look, and people who have been, or something that has gotten a lot of people interested in the access bars is that people who have been doing it for a while don't seem to be aging as rapidly as their friends and family.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I noticed that this area has a lot of, or the energy is more intense here than just about any other bar. I think it's because we have so many points of view about aging in our culture, of like you turn 30, that means this and that, and you turn
Right.
40 and and you turn 50 and gosh, that means
Right.
this and that. And
Yeah, especially the decades. The decades are the ones where you go, oh, God. But then you forget and just move on. But yeah, and I'm sure
But
it's
your
true
body-
in different cultures, right? Or different areas in Asia. I know there's some societies that are much more accepting and loving of the aging process than in the U.S. And
Yeah,
it would probably feel different if you run bars there.
Yeah, there's certain cultures who perhaps aging is not, or they don't make the same significance as of, you turn 30, 40, 50, the decades, or at this age you should be having these health issues. Like there's famous cultures who have tremendous longevity, and they wouldn't necessarily have the point of view that, when you turn 50 you should be running into these health issues.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to run the bars of someone from a longer living culture and see if maybe it didn't run quite as intensely on the aging toaster. And some other bars that I'd like to mention are control. So the control one is right here where my
Oh, I feel that one tingling.
this finger is. So this is all the points of view that you have connected with needing to control things.
Uh-oh,
So
I feel that.
So this one often has a whole, well, all of them have a fair amount of, or all of them have lots of charge, and really you're not gonna get rid of all the junk that's been locked in your body in one session. In fact, it's unlikely that you, no matter how long you have your bars run, there's probably always going to be more releasing.
More stuff, yeah.
Since we're continuously creating more stuff that requires releasing.
Right.
So typically, I personally try to get my bars run about once a week, and that's just to. I notice that when I have or right after I've had my bars run, that I'm particularly relaxed, feeling particularly light, and it's a lot more challenging to get me upset about things like shortly after I've had my bars run, and it's a cumulative effect. You never really go back to where you were before a given bar session.
Uh-huh.
It's just that kind of the level of ease in your body and relaxation and the sense of space becomes a little less noticeable as time goes on after a bar session. And I always, if I haven't had one for a while, one way that I know that it could be a good time to get my bars run is if I'm finding myself getting cranky or just more difficult to upset.
Uh-huh.
I go and get my bars run, and then typically I find that I'm in better spirits and just back in that happier, lighter way of functioning that's less reactive and more just being present and with a sense of ease. So there's 32 points altogether. Run a few of them, and typically the bars are run in sets, since just for efficiency. Since there's 32 different points to go through to dissipate the energy from, it works well to do them in certain sets, and just the way our fingers are, there's certain bars that work well to run together.
Thank you for joining us today, and tune in next time for Ready to Heal. We'll bring back our guest, Adam Johnson, since we have many more questions and things we can talk about, and I hope you will return.
Absolutely. I'd love to be back on the show.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.